Good morning. This is Introduction to Algebra for Thursday, March the 26th. And today we're going to be looking at Lesson 100. Lesson 100 is about exponents and signed numbers. We understand what exponents mean. Exponents simply tell us how many times to multiply our base times itself. Today, what we're going to look at is how parentheses affect that. It's very simple, really. Let's look over here. If we have 4 squared, we know that simply means 4 times 4 equals 16. Well, look at the next one. What if I have parentheses around my 4 square and I have a minus sign in front? This means give me the opposite of 4 square. Well, 4 square is still 16. The opposite of that is a negative 16. The last one, what if I have the negative sign on the inside? This means negative 4 squared. So negative 4 times negative 4 is a positive 16. What we're going to say is if the negative sign is inside the parentheses, then square or cube or whatever that is, that negative number. So then I have to say, okay, well, not only is it 4 times 4 is 16, but how many signs do I have? Well, in this case, I had 2 negative signs making my answer positive. Remember, if I had cubed it, if I had said negative 2, but I wanted to cube it, I would have said 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8, and I have 3 signs, so it would have been a negative 8. But what if I had what's the opposite of negative 2 cubed? Well, negative 2 cubed, we just said, was negative 8. And the opposite of that would be a positive 8. When you have both of these signs, okay, or even just have the 1 on the outside, it simply means the opposite of it, okay? If the negative sign is on the inside of the parentheses, then you're finding the cube or the square of a negative number. So make sure you pay close attention to those negative numbers. Let's look at problems practice A. I've written it on the board. I have the opposite of negative 2 cubed minus negative 2 squared. Well, first, what is negative 2 cubed? Well, 2 times 2 times 2 is 8. Since it's negative, it would be a negative 8 because I have 3 negative signs, right? We know that if this is an odd number, it's going to make my answer negative if this inside is negative, okay? So what's the opposite? So negative 2 times negative 2 is a positive 4. Positive 4 times negative 2 is negative 8. But we want the opposite of that, so this becomes a positive 8. Now, we're going to subtract, and then we're going to go over here and say, what's the square of negative 2? Well, negative 2 times negative 2 is a positive 4. So, positive 8 minus a positive 4 is a positive 4. Very simple, okay? So, if the negative sign is inside the parentheses, then you are multiplying a negative number however many times, whether it's a square or a cubed. If that negative sign is on the outside of the parentheses, or if there are no parentheses, then you're saying, what's the opposite of that square? Let's look at number 1 in our problem set today. 5 times a number is 35 greater than 2 times the opposite of the number. What's the number? Okay, well, let's back up. We have to first decide what we're doing. Okay, what's the first thing it tells us? 5 times a number. We don't know the number. We just know it's 5 times. So we have 5n. Then it says, the key word is. Is means equals. So put your equal mark. What does it equal? 35 greater than. Wait a minute. Greater than says it's going to be more than something. So I'm going to skip a space. And I'm going to go out and put plus 35 because it's greater than something. What is that something? Okay, that something is 2 times the opposite of the number. So we're going to say 2 times some number but it's the opposite of it. Now, because it's the opposite, we have that little negative sign in front. What does that tell us to do? It means when we get ready to move it in just a second, we're not going to subtract, we're going to, that's right, we're going to add. So let's add. We're going to add 2n to each side. Now, these are going to cancel, leaving us 7n equals 35. And how do we get rid of that? Of course, it says to multiply, we do the opposite, which is divide by 7. This cancels, leaving us n equals 5. Now, let's look at number 2. It says 7 times the opposite of a number is 50 less than 3 times the number. So let's back up. Let's think this through one thing at a time. 7 times the opposite of a number. Well, 7 times would be what? 7n. The opposite would make it a negative 7n. Okay? So we have negative 7n. Then we say we want to, it is tells us equals. Well, what does it equal? It equals 50 less than, okay, 50 less than means I'm going to subtract 50 from something. I don't know what I'm subtracting it from yet, okay? I'm going to subtract it from, what does the book say? 3 times the number. So 3 times the number is simply 3n. Now I need to solve it. Okay, we're going to subtract 3n because we're trying to get all of the n's on each side. So we're going to put 3n over here. These two are going to cancel, leaving us a negative 50. On this side, I have 7n and negative 3n. Okay, so what do I have? I have a negative 10n because that is subtract. Now, I have to multiply. This says multiply by negative 10, but I'm really going to divide by a negative 10. Divide by negative 10. This is going to cancel, leaving me n. Negative 50 divided by negative 10 is going to be positive 5. Because negatives divided by negatives are always positive. When you're multiplying and dividing positive and negative numbers, if the signs are the same, the answer is positive. Okay? Let's look at number 3. Only 3/5 of the students in the school came to hear the distinguished scholar. If there were 1,200 students in the school, how many came to hear the distinguished scholar? Okay? Well, first, what is your pattern that you use to find these kinds of problems out? Okay? It is fractions times the of equals the is. Now, let's see what fits our pattern. Okay? 3/5 of the students, so that's our fraction. 3/5 of something. 3/5 of the students came to hear the distinguished scholar. If there were 1,200 students in the school, that's the of, and it equals our is. So the first thing I need to do is what? I need to reduce. I can divide 5 by 5. 5 goes into 12 2 times, leaving us a 2. 5 goes into 20 4 times. And then 5 goes into 0 times, okay? Now, we're going to multiply. 3 times 0 is 0. 3 times 4 is 12. 3 times 2 plus 1 is 7. So how many of the students came to hear the distinguished scholar? 720 students. Let's look at number 4. A ratio. When we write a ratio, we have to remember the top number on each ratio has to equal it has to be the same if we're making it into a proportion. The ratio of those who stayed awake to those who dozed, and please tell me you were not dozing during this video, was 2.5 to 7. If 1,400 stayed awake, how many were dozing? Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to say how many, what's our ratio? How many stayed awake to how many were dozed to those that dozed? It was 2.5 to 7. Okay, the 2.5 are those that did what? Okay, they had, look at your ratio, the ratio of those that stayed awake to those that dozed. Those that stayed awake was 2.5, those that dozed was 7. If 1,400 stayed awake, which is your top number because this is awake, and that's the ones that dozed. What are we gonna do? We're gonna cross multiply. So we have 2 1/2 x equals 7 times 1,400. Okay, so now let's simplify this all out. Okay, so first let's make this 5 over 2x, and this we're gonna say 0, 0, 7 times 4 is 28, 7, 8, 9, 9,800. Okay, so what do we wanna do next? We wanna get rid of the 5 halves, right? So we're gonna use our reciprocal. So put 2 over 5 times 2 over 5. That means this has to be over a 1. All of this is gonna cancel, leaving me an x. Then we're gonna go over here and we're gonna cancel again. 5 goes into 9 one time with 4 left. 5 goes into 48 9 times, because 9 times 5 is 45, with 3 left. 5 goes into 36 times, and then 0. This, of course, is going to be a 1. Okay? Now, to solve it, all we're going to do is say 1,960 times 2. And that gives us an answer of 3,920. So 3,920 of the students were dozing. That would really be deflating to one's ego as a teacher. All right, let's look at number 5. Graph x is not less than -2. X is not less than -2. Well, the first thing we have to say, if x is not, say less than or greater than, it is not less than -2, the first thing I have to do is make this a statement that I can graph, okay? So that statement is that x is, what is x? Well, that means that x is greater than or equal to -2. I can't graph a negative statement. I have to make it positive, okay? So x is greater than or equal to -2. And I feel confident you know how to graph that. Today, I want you to do, I'm giving you a very short assignment, but it really is important that you guys do it, okay? I want you to do 3 through 12 tonight, okay? 3 through 12 tonight is your homework, and we'll go over them. Don't forget to take your online quiz. Have a good day.